Do you ever think that maybe the things that you have to say, you ought to maybe start the morning at the United States Congress on both sides of the aisle, the Senate and the House, and they should hear some of this because those are the things that I think are missing, Bill.
Well, I think one of their affirmations should be, I care about serving the people, not retaining power. If
Amen.
that's one of the main problems. Everybody, Democrats, Republicans, they get in and they just want to hold on to the power, which frequently makes them go against what they really know they should be doing.
I have a political background, as most of my listeners know, and two things. My daughter, Kimberly, actually served on the city commission as public service. She was an investment banker, and now she is the director of Everglades Trust. But she did that as her public service. And being a city commissioner where the rubber hits the road is not for the faint of heart. But I said two things to her. Low self-esteem in high places is a very dangerous combination, and you'd rather be respected than reelected. And what I see, having been a lobbyist for a very long time in my career along with advertising and PR, was all of a sudden, and I guess it was all of a sudden I started to observe people that wanted to be somebody rather than do something. Governing's hard. Democracy is messy. And if you want to be a potted plant so you can come back, that's one thing. If you want to make a difference, it takes a lot of courage. That's my thought.
I'm not going to add anything to that. This is quite succinct and absolutely correct.
Well, we need more inspiration. We need more people like you with the ability to have a microphone and aren't afraid to speak out. And that's not judgmental. That's saying, come on, guys, we have one America, and let's make it work. You know, Jefferson said it's a great experiment if we can keep it.
Well, I think that more importantly than ever, because of the tribalism that we have, right, we have to recognize, unlike France, unlike Italy, unlike Norway, unlike Sweden, this is a pluralistic society. That's what the United States is. So if you have Caucasian people being threatened by the numbers of brown people growing up, they have to recognize that's a country they live in. They can't go back to create something like this 200 years old. The second thing that I think is very important, has to do with cancel culture, is this. If we're supposed to be a melting pot, then melting means cultural appropriation. I was quite disturbed a couple of years ago when I read that a couple of women, white women, Caucasian women, who went to Mexico and fell in love with the cuisine of this area and kept going back in recipes, opened a restaurant someplace in the state of Washington that was featured Mexican food, but they weren't Mexican, and they got shut down because they weren't Mexican. But to me, that's absolutely ridiculous. Cultural appropriation means you're appreciating.
Right, it's a compliment. That, you know, I said this on the air recently because I'm from Ohio. I call it the kind state, the Midwest. I'm a big Cleveland Indians fan. And I pick up to see the headline on the sports page that says they're not going to be called the Indians anymore. I was through the roof. I thought it's like the Florida State Seminoles. They were going to change that, but the Seminoles themselves finally came to the legislature and said, no, this is a wonderful compliment. What are we doing?
Well, we're listening to people who are offended, and the people, the group of Native Americans who were offended. They didn't like the logo. I mean, they had a point in not liking the logo. They had a point with the Redskins. You know, the culture has. This is not brain surgery. The culture has evolved to a point where, when people are offended, they're right. Whether I'm offended by this, okay, then you're correct. Because
right. That's very funny. And you know, humor that you do is such a healer. I so appreciate you taking the time to be on Stirring It Up because, you know, humor, scientifically, we know that laughter heals. Dr.
I
Norman Cousins, I think, did the experiment when he was very, very ill, didn't think he was going to make it, and he had his wife bring Laugh-In, was it
yep,
Laugh-In or Candid Camera, to the hospital. And
right.
he had an amazing recovery, and he then started to look at the whole research of laughter. Nobody laughs anymore. You can't tell a joke because you're going to, make somebody mad. And I worry that's coming
That's it. That's what
grassroots out of the schools. We're teaching our kids to be angry. Maybe.
I was hoping that when the pandemic ended, when our lives were actually threatened by, by a horrible virus, that we'd come out of this and maybe lighten up a little bit. But
But you
no,
can't because you've got the
we
media
don't have
and
to.
the political ideologues, and you can't get through the clutter. It's the I love the opportunity to have someone like you on the show because you are a spirit lifter,
Welcome,
and
thank you. I
no,
appreciate
you
that.
are, and we're blessed. We're blessed to have people like you. Did you ever were you ever on my very favorite in the whole wide world is Johnny Carson. I just thought he was brilliant. And were you ever on his show?
No, no. Although my mother's son, Linda Thorson, was on the show twice, and I was out there the first time she did it. First time she did it, Johnny was the host. The second time, Leno was the host. But I did get to say hi to Johnny, backstage. That was about it. Uh, Carson was excellent. In my opinion, and believe me, as Nietzsche said, one of my close friends, Nietzsche, we're going out to lunch together. As Nietzsche said, all of life is a debate over taste. All of
Right.
life.
And it's
So
all in the eyes of the beholder.
right, what I'm about to say, you're probably not going to agree with, but I think my taste, Stephen Colbert is as good as anyone who has ever done late night. As good as Carson, but different. As good as Steve Allen, but different. As good as Jack Parr, but different.
Oh, Jack Parr. Wow.
And he was a good conversationalist. He was an interesting personality.
Yeah, he was.
Uh, I don't know if you watch much Colbert. Watch the first 10, 12 minutes of the show. It's brilliant, in my opinion, every night.
I've seen two Colberts, one that are different. One I liked, not so much now. Because he's kind of snarky. I don't like snarky.
I think he's
Carson
smart.
could get away with things that, and of course McMahon probably made him better. But Johnny, and then I got the best of Johnny Carson, and I introduced my grandkids to it, and they loved it. There's some things that are just lasting, and it's funny. It hits a human chord of who we really are. This stuff I'm seeing out there, whether it's the anger with the rap or the anti-cop or the pro, whatever, it just makes no sense. And I can't believe it's the majority of Americans. And something
We have a long way to
says,
go. We have a long way to go to get joy back. I mean, let's face it, we had a pandemic that killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. Who would have ever thought that wearing a mask would become a political issue? That
right,
that the belief that it was real would become a political issue, or that getting the vaccine would become a political issue. Who would have thought that there would be a demonstration in South Florida burning masks when any doctor any except the crazy one, would tell you, oh yeah, you're going to be better off protecting yourself with a mask. But that's how bad things are. I thought in my own little Bill Boggs naive way, this pandemic is going to bring the country together, but instead it divided us even more.
it didn't. People that were political grabbed a hold of it and used it in a way to divide us. The pandemic is like anything. We had 9/11, but we rose to the occasion because both the press and the political climate made sure that that healing took place. With the pandemic, it was almost this is an opportunity to divide. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I see.
Well,
Sure
we
glad I
did
live
not.
in Florida, and I always like to give a shout out to our governor and our legislature because they really did it smart. And politically you may disagree or agree, but Florida did it smart in that they took care of they didn't panic us for one thing. and they took care of the vulnerable and tried to do it in a way that wasn't the world coming to an end. And I think it made a difference. Plus, we have the
Well,
sunshine.
at least the governor would appear with a mask on. At least the governor supported mask rules. So we had the leadership at the top. Trump never ever endorsed wearing a mask. Things would have been a lot different if we had had that simple element of leadership, I think. And that's not a political point. That's essentially a medical point. Leadership.
There was there was so many variances, and for some one reason, I think some on purpose, the American trust got broken down. So there's kind of a pox on everybody's house. Fauci did the best he could, but it wasn't a perfect science. There are other objective top scientists that have different opinions that never came to the table. Some people wonder why. It's the faster we can get over this and get not back to normal, because that's something that I'm not sure we'll ever see again. Maybe back to a better normal. Because I want to be able to. I used to love to have a good political conversation with. I'm on the Republican side of the aisle because and people know I was chairman of the party. But I love to talk to I love Tip O'Neill. I loved having dinner with him. I can't find anybody that you can have a conversation and still be friends with at the end.
Well, that's what I said before. We're so divided, we don't even want to hear another opinion. You know what I mean?
And I think we lose when we do that. We lose all the way around. What's your next goal, or your next shtick, if you will?
Well, I'm writing the book, The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog, is told to Bill Boggs. Has done well. It's been well received, and I'm writing a sequel to the book that kind of picks up after the pandemic. I'm about halfway through that, and so that's essentially my main. I identify right now as a writer of satire and absurdist humor.
And where do you do your writing, Bill? Do you do it early in the morning, out in a garden? Where do you do it? I mean, how do you get inspired?
Right here, right now I'm in Manhattan. I'm actually not in Florida at the present time. I just came back briefly.
And how's Manhattan doing? Is it getting healthy?
Yeah, Manhattan. Well, of course, New York had the highest death rate for quite a while early on because of the population density. Yeah, we're doing fine. New York is really opening up. The energy of the city is back.
Good.
The impatience of the city is back. The horn honking. Not one of it's not as proud as it was.
That's funny. You know the world's getting better when they're honking horns in Manhattan. I guess that's a good compass.
This is one of the things that when Spike and Bud go to New York, and they're in the second part of the book takes place in New York, where I've lived for so many years on a talk show in New York. One of the things that Spike says, I don't understand why the light changes, and the instant the light changes, unless the car takes off, New York is ruled by impatience.
And does he give the paw? Is that what he does when somebody cuts him off? He just gives the paw, I guess. Right? Is there a species? I mean, is there a certain kind of dog, or is this just a mixture of a lot?
The dog is it's an English Bull Terrier. It's the kind of dog he has like a little spot on his eye there. It's an English Bull Terrier, the kind of dog Patton had, like the Target dog who has a red circle around his
the
thigh.
RCA dog?
No, Little Nipper? No, not the RCA. The RCA dog was sort of like that, but not that exact breed.
And what gives you your inspiration? I mean, I love to know creativity. Do you just wake up one day and say, a light bulb goes off and I've got this idea, or?
Yeah, that's actually what happened. When my last TV venture, which was called My Generation, which I was contributing producer for My Generation, when that went off the air, Anita, I knew now I'm in my 70s. The prospects of getting another major TV job was slim. And I've been aggressive chasing TV jobs all my life. As I said, 15 different shows. I thought, I'm just going to be a writer now. I can control my own destiny as a writer. And yeah, I had this idea. I can't remember the day it hit me, based on a true life thing. Before I came to New York, I had a show in North Carolina called Southern Exposure, and on that show I had a dog, my own dog, who was named Spike, who was very funny. The local newspaper called him the Wonder Dog, so we had Spike the Wonder Dog.
What kind of
And
dog was he?
same dog, the same exact dog,
Okay.
English Terrier. So shortly before coming to New York, Anita, I shortly before coming to New York, the dog got killed by a drunk driver, which was horrible. And but the thought was the dog was so popular in North Carolina, got so much fan mail, and I knew how to use the dog in skits and film pieces. What if Spike had come with me to New York and became a big TV star? But I brought it into today's world of television and social media, YouTube. And that's essentially where the idea. And as soon as I sat down at this computer, which I'm on right now, to write it, the voice of the dog came through me. And any writer will tell you, once you get the central character's voice, it takes off. So that's what the process was like. And then it's just a matter of having the discipline every day to sit down and do it. And then you have a movie going on in your head. I always have with me a notebook. I have one of these black notebooks. I'm constantly writing down ideas in the book if I see something that I think is funny. So I don't have, like, for example, I was watching a guy sitting by himself in a restaurant the other day, eating, the way he was hunched over and eating like this. And I wrote down, eats like a guy who's eaten too many meals alone. And that
Wow.
tells you something about a
Wow.
character. Yes, that's right. Or another one I thought of the other day was a man unencumbered by charisma. That tells you a lot about a character.
It does.
I
It
have an
does.
idea. My high school principal always said, you have an idea, write it down so you don't have to worry about remembering. I have dozens and dozens of notebooks over the past 40 years. I've never thrown one away.
Do you ever write poetry?
No, I can't understand poetry.
Really?
I really can't understand poetry.
You know, it's funny. I do write poetry, but in my kids, I kept it in a trunk. And my son got a hold of it one day and started reading. And he said, Mom, these need to go to Nashville. And I said, why? And they said, make great country western songs. So, you know, Browning I'll never be.
It's taken me 30, 40 years to understand the woods are lovely, dark, and deep. And I have miles to go before I see something to
You can understand mine. Mine are very, it's always either in love or out of love, and it's very simple. That's why my son thought it should go to Nashville and be a country western song. What do you do when you come down to Florida?
Well, we're there months and months a year.
And so how can we look forward to seeing you somewhere? Are you going to be doing anything on stage? Or are you coming to see the, I'm going to have to introduce you to the cruise line. Have you do a shtick on the cruise line.
I have 5 shows that I do.
Oh,
Confessions of a Talk Show Host, and they're all multimedia with videos. Confessions of a Talk Show Host is a behind the scenes of the talk show, and it's a comedy show based on truth and all the things that have gone wrong.
and where do
I
you
have
do
another
these?
show. Where do I do them?
Uh-huh.
Where I'm at. I've done several at like the villages and the residences down there. I did one in Boca at the Black Box Theater. I've done a couple at FAU.
Right.
They're essentially, these were created on Crystal Cruises. So we're talking about an upscale, over 55 audience. And they've been tested for like 20 years. They work for that audience. So if you want to get in touch with me, if you could just write me, bill@BillBoggs.com. And we can work some, bill@BillBoggs.com.
Well, I first of all would love to meet you in person. Not that I don't love virtual, but
I don't go out because I'm home. But what do we do? Jane, by the way, sometime you ought to have her on for a couple of minutes talking about Johnny Carson. She worked for Johnny Carson.
I'd love to.
Out of college. So
Really?
we're right there in Palm Beach on the island. I like to say we live on 3 different islands: Manhattan Island, Long Beach Island, and Palm Beach Island. And we have a relatively active life. We don't go crazy with really a lot of shallow social activities. Jane is a member of the Palm Beach Chamber Music Society, so I tag along to that. We like to go to museums and lectures from time to time. A lot of music performances. The Kravitz Center, a lot of music performances. down to Boca. What's the place we like? The Arts Garage in Boca, the Wick Theater. The Wick
Oh, the
Theater.
Wick Theater is very good. I've had her on my radio show when I had a show on the cruise line, actually.
So taking in a lot of information, taking in a lot of entertainment, and then occasionally going to Brick Tops or treating ourselves at the Il Bouquet. That's a big treat going to that place. And just we like to actually, Jane and I actually like to get dressed up and go out. We actually, for this interview here in my pad, I put on a jacket. I'm still to that extent old school.
No, that's not old school. That's
you
just
won't find me
that's
wearing
being a gentleman.
Thank you. Yeah, you won't find me going out to dinner in a Hawaiian shirt. Even Elvis Presley looked bad in a Hawaiian shirt and running out to polka. The guys do not wear Hawaiian shirts out to dinner. Your wife looks great. She's wearing Armani, and you're wearing something with palm trees on it. Wake up.
That is so true. That is
true.
Yeah. Nobody looks good in the word for today on a Friday. Those of you in the listening audience, nobody looks good in Hawaiian shirt. So if you're going out tonight and changing your clothes and you have one of those in your closet, remember that Bill Boggs just said nobody looks good in a Hawaiian shirt. So before we have to leave you, tell me what else is on your mind.
What's on my mind?
Yeah, just kind of stir it up a little bit with me and tell me what you're thinking.
Well, we already did stir it up.
Yeah, but you got a lot more to think about. So I know anybody that writes like you do, and whose right brain goes a mile a minute, you got some more things to say in there for the next 5 minutes. So give me a couple minutes of it.
I think that one of the things I'm curious about is I like to go out like once every 2 to 3 weeks for lunch by myself and enjoy a long leisurely lunch, have a couple of glasses of white wine, and just look at things. And just as a writer, I like to do that. So what I see frequently is what I call inauthentic behavior. Dan's Papers in New York said that the book, The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog, nailed inauthenticity in people's behavior. The dog seeing the behavior,
Do you think that's because people aren't secure or comfortable in their own skin? Is that why that happens, do you think?
No, I think part of it has to do with imitating the Kardashians. I mean, I'm from the pre-Kardashian era.
Please.
There's so much over-the-topness.
Reality
TV, over-the-topness. And who people in reality TV, when they're walking in, they're coming through the door, they don't just say, people are doing that to each other on the street. Two women walking down the street, they see each other. Oh, Mary! Oh, hi! Oh, wait a minute! What started? I mean,
Bill, you make truth funnier than fiction become a reality, is what you do.
At what point, Anita, you're a female. During the evolution of females, does that click in? In 8th grade, 9th grade? But we're imitating the over-the-top behavior that we see on television, so that many people are what I call in a performance aspect of behavior. They're not being genuine, they're performing part of it.
But does that sell? I mean, really? If we went back to, I know we can't do Father Knows Best or Leave It to Beaver or Doris Day again, but some kind of civility. I mean, why? There's a reason why Hallmark is one of the #1 channels on TV, and yet, or a Disney movie that's a family movie sells out, and yet, for some reason, we don't. If you want to follow the money, why don't they follow it that way instead of somebody committing mayhem and killing everybody and a terrible, violent whatever?
We're not going back, Anita. It's not going. It's going. We take something like a major catastrophe to shock people into being.
We just had one. I mean, how many major catastrophes do we need?
As I've indicated, it divided the country more, and that's primarily because of politics. It divided the country more than united the country. I think that for years I've had the idea, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was something called the Civility Project? And the Civility Project was really reminding us about what civility is. Civility is not, hey, I'm walking down Ocean Drive in Palm Beach and I see somebody throw an empty pack of cigarettes out the window of their car or a bag of trash. There, I'm not talking about somebody doing it at 8th Avenue in New York. Somebody there. What motivates somebody to throw any trash out the window? That's an uncivil act. What about this? You pull into a parking lot. The person races, to get into the spot ahead of you. You get out of your car and start screaming at that person because of what they did. They start screaming back. That low-level anger. This is not. We're an extremely violent, angry society.
At some point, Bill, our leaders and those that are supposed to be an example said it's okay, and it's not okay. And every time I get a chance, I say it. And we're almost out of time, but I cannot thank you enough for sharing this microphone with me. You have been an absolute joy and delight. And our audience is going to be a little bit better because you shared some thoughts with us today. And I just can't say thanks enough, Bill. I hope you'll come back soon.
Anita, anytime you need me, I'm around for you. You're an excellent interviewer. You have a beguiling style. And again, you listen. That's one of the key things. You listen to people. You've asked me questions that, believe it or not, I had to think. But, that doesn't happen all the time. I thank you. I give you my love. And remember one thing, one of my daily affirmations I got from my father. I'll just leave you, my father. That's my Philadelphia accent. My father, your health is your wealth.
Amen to that. And on that note, what a great way to end a Stirrin' It Up show. But more than that, the end of your workday, folks. And again, this is Anita Mitchell wishing you green lights and blue skies. Bye-bye.
Winston Groom, author of Forrest Gump, says that Bill Boggs and his friend Spike the Wonder Dog unleash comedic wizardry in this madcap, highly entertaining satiric novel. Spike is the newest canine literary hero to take on the world with hilarious results.